On this episode of the Dubcast, as always, you've got myself, Poletti, and joining me is Burke, and we've got everything to talk about this week. So let's get straight into it. Burke, I'd ask how you're feeling, but I'm pretty sure your answer is the same as mine, which is tired, worn out, exhausted, and sick of it.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably the nicest way to put it, the most family-friendly way to put it. Let's leave it there. Let's leave it
Yeah,
there.
so in case you couldn't tell by the tone, this episode's going to tackle on a lot of hard topics this week that have some personal impact to both myself and Burke. So I'd apologize in advance for a dour mood at points throughout this episode, but
This is our
these
show.
discussions need to be had.
And also, this is our
But
show.
it is, yes. But we'll there were some positives this week on the field, so we can get into those as well. Burke, as always, we start with our big storyline. There's been a couple of times over the last few weeks where we've known where we're going straight off the bat, but I mean, there's so much to talk about. We've got on field, we've got off field, we've got overseas. It's all happening.
I think I will keep it local-ish and go with Annalie Rasmussen going clear on the Golden Boot race.
Yep. Yeah, no, that is definitely a good place to start. She is having a fantastic season as she scored once again in the Mariners 2-1 victory over the Newcastle Jets at the number 2 sports ground on Saturday afternoon. In a game which, despite the kickoff delay, went ahead with multiple drinks breaks because it was like 40 odd degrees or whatever it was at kickoff. At least that's what it was at Campbelltown where I was. I was not at this game. So maybe it was a little bit cooler up in Newcastle, but not by much. That's for sure. Kelly Brown opened the scoring before Peter Trimmis, and then Annalise Rasmussen won it for the Mariners, which means they'll retain the F3 trophy for another season. We didn't get to see that penalty shootout if the Jets had won by 3. That could have happened, but the Mariners retain the F3 trophy as well. On what's been probably a tough week for the club, Burke, the Mariners just keep on keeping on.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty impressive that they do keeping on, which is why I went with the positive story from that club instead of the everything else that's happening uh, at that club. But yeah, I think the second goal that Rasmussen scored was so impressive. I don't understand how she did that. And you know what? I don't need to. It looked good. It went into the back of the net. That's all you need.
That is all you need indeed.
Also, shout out to I would say friend of pod, Annabelle Martin, who had an absolutely unreal goal line save during this game to, help shore up the win for Central Coast. There's a really excellent photo of the moment on the Beyond 90 Instagram page, I want to say. Yeah, it's really, really good. Really good stuff. Great photo, great moment. Just, yeah, excellent, excellent football.
Yeah, very good indeed. I mean, you kind of set it up, so it's probably a good segue to start talking about it. Off the field, the Central Coast Mariners are now under the control of the APL. So Mike Charlesworth, who has been the owner and chairman of the Central Coast Mariners for quite some time, and has also been trying to offload the club for quite some time, has forfeited the club participation agreement to the APL, who have terminated that agreement and in the short term going to be running the club whilst they try to find a prospective buyer for the club. Now, this has been ongoing for quite some time. As I said, there's been numerous, false dawns in the past of people taking over. Richard Peel, who we've discussed on this pod before in length at different points. There was also a reported off-season sale to English club Queen's Park Rangers, which fell through at the 11th hour, per Vince Regari in the Sydney Morning Herald, in an article he wrote yesterday as well. There was also talk of Damon Hanlon taking over, who has been involved with Sydney Olympic, but apparently that sale fell through at the 11th hour, which is what's forced the APL to come in and take over. And the APL is going to restart the sales process, and there's no guarantee it will go to Hanlon as a result, with the process starting fresh with the APL. There's a quote here from Stephen Conroy. The APL board is resolute in its commitment to fans and stakeholders to protect the game's best interest and make decisive action to ensure the ongoing growth, stability and integrity of the A-Leagues. As custodians of the game, we believe it is the best course of proactive action for the short and long-term interest of the club to terminate the current CPA under the current ownership and run an expedited and robust sale process to find a new and stable long-term owner for the Mariners. We believe in the value that Central Coast Mariners brings to the A-Leagues. They've shown with the right investment and community engagement, they have a vibrant fan base and a proven ability to consistently compete for on-field success. We are confident that with the engaged local and international interest, we can find the right buyer for the Mariners to take the club forward and ensure their long-term success. That is from APL Chair Stephen Conroy. Also in the Vince Regari article is that multiple sources, or is that the APL is now attempting to revive those discussions. Sorry, I was reading from the wrong part of the article there. The APL now attempts to revive those discussions with QPR. But sources have said that 2 other European-based clubs plus a local consortium have already signalled their intent to be part of the process. Per Joey Lynch, is that the APL is not entertaining offers with which would see Central Coast relocate away from Gosford. In a tweet, I'm told that the APL aren't of the mindset to entertain ownership offers that would see the Mariners move away from Gosford. They are committed to keeping the team on the coast. It's a lot to take in.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a shame that this has happened, but it's also been a long time coming. So it's like disappointed but not surprised kind of vibe going here. Hopefully they can find a new owner soon and they can, follow through all the correct processes so that we don't have another 11th hour collapse. Because, it's really disappointing to hear that they've gotten close and then not managed to cross the final hurdle. Because we could have avoided this. But yeah, hopefully the, players and the staff at Central Coast aren't, impacted by this too negatively. That's not the correct way to word this. Whatever. Hopefully this doesn't have too hard of an impact on the players and the staff and, all that kind of stuff. Because, yeah, it must be hard to have to deal with this kind of situation. Yeah, interesting though that the APL was happy to step in here, but haven't stepped in for other clubs. Don't know about that. But I don't run a business, so what would I know?
Yeah, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole, to be perfectly honest.
Yep.
Oh, well, I think that's a good place to head to my big storyline of the weekend, which will see us stay in Sydney. We'll stay in New South Wales and head down to Sydney, I should say. Sydney FC 0, Adelaide United 0. This game took place in very hot conditions. This game, 0-0, probably wasn't the most entertaining of watch. Leichhardt Oval looked like to borrow your phrase, a patchwork quilt. After the Inner West Council tried to relay the pitch and didn't quite do so successfully. If you can hear Alex Kidiak meowing in the background, she's having quite the morning.
She's also protesting the conditions of that pitch.
Yes, she is. She does say hello to all of you. But anyway, yes, Sam Purr's around here somewhere. Don't ask me where. He's off doing his own thing. But yes, no, the pitch was not in great condition. It met the minimum requirements for play, which I mean, look, I'm no horticulturalist, but I'm going to guess that the minimum requirements for play were it had grass, and that was it. Again, based on the state of it, if you watched any part of that game, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Ante Juric decided to only use one substitute despite the stifling conditions, and that was Jody Ukekel off for Riley Tanner on, who almost came close to finding the winner for Sydney FC, literally rattling it off the crossbar. But that, further extends Sydney FC's scoring drought. Burke, and yes, they're on double-digit points now, and yes, they're only a couple of points outside of the top six because of other results that took place over the weekend. But I mean, something's got to give at some point, right? Like Sydney cannot continue like this because it's just not Sydney.
No, it really is not Sydney. That Frankenstein pitch. I'm sorry. When I watched the first half and the highlights of this. Not that there were many highlights. And the second I saw that pitch, my jaw dropped. Like, okay, Frankenstein. Minimum requirements. Minimum requirements. We could tell. We could tell they met the minimum. And not one bit further than minimum. Yeah, there was a lot of things working against this game being a good game of football. That being the weather, the pitch, the state of Sydney FC currently. Yeah, I was really hoping this would be the game for Adelaide to kind of, I guess, put their foot on the gas. They came close a couple of times in the first half, at least that I remember. But yeah, close but no cigar, I guess. And this is the second time that these two have played and drawn.
Yes, they played a scoreless draw. Round two, I want to say it was. Yes, round two sounds right. In Adelaide. Normally you might say, well, okay, it means these two sides are very evenly matched, and that's not to say they're not, but it also shows that maybe these two sides aren't clicking the way that they should be. I mean, for Adelaide United, they came off the back of a 5-2 victory over the Wanderers and then a 1-0 victory over the Mariners coming into this game, and did they leave their scoring boots in Adelaide? Because they struggled in this game as well. I don't know what to make of Adelaide this season. We've discussed this before. But yeah, as I said, for Sydney, time's running out to turn this around because, I mean, they've got it. We're recording on Tuesday morning, so this episode will be released on Wednesday morning. So we don't know the result of the Sydney FC versus Newcastle match that's taking place tonight as of the time of recording. So it's one of those interesting things where it's like, again, for Ante, you're only using one substitution. It's like 30 odd degrees outside, and you've got a game in 4 days' time. I don't get it. Like, we know injuries have somewhat taken a toll on the squad makeup, but I mean, nothing is making sense when I try to look at Sydney FC at the moment, and yeah, I don't quite know, don't quite know what else to say there, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think there really is much. I don't think there really is anything you can say. It's not looking good for Sydney FC, and it is
No,
likely to get worse.
it is indeed. There's another Sydney side things aren't looking great for, and that is the Western Sydney Wanderers, who made the trip out west to face the Perth Glory and found themselves on the wrong end of a 3-1 scoreline late on Friday night. It was Tovar with the opening goal in the 29th minute before Susan Fong's on cam. In the 44th minute, One Kong made it 2-1 in the 75th minute before Ella Lincoln in the 84th made it 3-1 at the Sam Kerr Football Centre. And after a string of 1-0 victories, Perth put the afterburners on in this one, walking away with a 3-1 win and putting themselves right into the top 6, Burke.
Yep. I said it last week. That I thought this was going to be the game for Perth to finally score more than one goal. And I was right. Do not trust any of my predictions. I do not trust any of my predictions. Do not take this as a sign that my predictions are trustworthy. Yeah, you make your own decisions. If you choose to believe mine, I am not responsible for that in any way, shape, or form. That's on you. But yes, I was right. I love being right. It's so hard to be right about things with this league. But yes, good stuff. Fonz on cam. Once again, my stocks, they're so high. The free kick goal that she scored, I knew as soon as she was setting it up that it was going in. I feel like a lot of people probably knew that, but I really knew that goal was going in. Yeah, banger. Really good performance from Perth. Obviously, it would have been better for them to have kept the clean sheet, but yeah, not much you could do there. Western Sydney, doomed by the narrative. That, yeah, I don't think there's any coming back
mean,
from
we
this.
we can repeat the same talking points that we're repeating every week, but I feel that would
Does
be.
anyone want to hear that again? I don't want to say it again.
No, I feel like it would be insulting to the listeners to make them sit through another 3 or 4 minutes of that, because it's the same story every single week. With Sydney FC, at least, even though we're kind of repeating, and by we, I mean I am repeating the same talking points nearly every week, it's different, I think, in the sense of the way certain things are playing out. Whereas with the Wanderers, it's just, it is quite literally the same story every single week. There's no nuance, there's no real difference to it, which I think is really, really unfortunate for Western Sydney. But we keep on moving on, as does the rest of this competition. We're going to head across the ditch now for Wellington Phoenix 1, Melbourne City 2. This game played out quite differently to the way the game earlier this season played out when they met at Casey Fields in Melbourne. Letitia McKenna opening the scoring in the 16th minute, followed up by 18 Keane in the 21st minute. While in the 90th minute, things kept a little bit interesting towards the end by new signing for the Wellington Phoenix, Michaela Woods, who scored in the 90th minute to give Wellington a chance of leaving Pararua Park with a point, but it was to no avail in the 2-1 victory. This was members' appreciation round for the Phoenix as well, and so every member got a handwritten note from Bev Priestman, which I have seen, I have read, and I thought it was a very nice touch from the club to do that. The men's members as well got one from Chiefy. So just absolutely fantastic from the club, and it was probably just a slight disappointment that they couldn't give them a point to leave with Burke.
Yeah, for sure. I think this was a really interesting game. I actually wrote about this one for Impetus, women's football. Yeah, they Wellington did really well at keeping Holly McNamara quiet, which is not an easy feat. A lot of the game, you'd kind of randomly see her popping up in City's defensive third just because she wasn't getting the ball enough, or at all. Really, I think, yeah, they Wellington sort of struggled in the first half. They looked a bit sort of flat. And this is their first game, I believe, since Samba's ACL as well, or at least since that was announced. And I think they kind of missed her as a focal point for their attack, which they rectified in the second half when Michaela Woods came on. I thought she was fantastic. The goal that she scored was brilliant. A lot of that, though, you kind of have to give to Brooke Nunn because that cross was just perfect. Just perfect. Um, yeah, Woods barely needed to touch the ball to get it in. Yeah, loved also after she scored the goal, the Knicks fans were all chanting and she was shown on the line at the restart dancing along to the chanting, which I thought was very good. Very good gear. Um,
I
yeah.
just quickly, I also will give her credit. She knew exactly what she had to do. No celebrating her debut goal for the
Yep.
club. Just grab the ball out of the back of the net, get it back to the halfway line as quickly as she could. No
Exactly.
needless celebrating. No tussling with a goalkeeper. Just get the play
Get it.
back underway. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. She she did her work exactly the way she needed to do it. I think she's definitely made a very good impression amongst the Knicks fans for sure. For City, both of their goals came through, well, as a result of Danella Buttress on that left side. She's just unreal. Unreal. The first one was just a really impressive cutback pass that also nutmegged a defender for Letitia McKenna to run onto. Second one, it was actually a shot on goal from her, but Essen got her hand to it, but only put it right back into the path of Aideen Keane to run onto. Um, yeah, Buttress is, yeah, definitely one of the like best, maybe the best young player of the league currently. Um, yeah, the second half from City looked like classic City ball where they were trying to keep control of things and yeah, just kind of play the professional game of not really letting the Knicks get too much of anything. Obviously, Wellington Wellington didn't like that. And yeah, the final, because the goal was scored in the 90th minute by Woods, so the final part with like time added on, I think it was like 6 minutes or something, was absolutely frantic. Um, and yeah, I think City luckily were able to keep their cool about things, which allowed them to yeah kind of run away with all 3 points again. And yeah, they've never lost to Wellington, or they've never. I don't think they've ever not beaten Wellington actually. In the entire time that Wellington's been in the competition. So yeah,
So Wellington will have to wait a little bit longer to do that. Now, um, you mentioned Holly McNamara there. Look, I was watching Dub Zone last week, which did air before we recorded, but I didn't watch it till after we had recorded. Teo Pellizzeri mentioned an interesting point, which is that there have been clubs that came circling for Holly McNamara for what is being purported as league record transfer fees, and Holly McNamara has said no, that she wants to see out the campaign with Melbourne City and try to win the Asian Women's Champions League. So we're guaranteed Holly McNamara for at least another 5 months, Burke.
Thank God. And you know what? Another prediction that has come true for me. Maybe you can trust. Don't. You can't. Don't. Don't even think about trusting my predictions. Don't. Just because I'm having a good run here. Don't. I did say she would want to stay to do the Asian Cup. So, my mind, she's very powerful. 1 out of every 10 times, which is why you cannot trust anything. Yeah, I'm very, very glad to hear that. I'm deeply, deeply unsurprised to hear that everyone wants Holly Mack. You'd be silly not to want Holly Mack. I hope when the time comes, she takes the correct deal that doesn't leave her rotting on a bench somewhere in Europe or wherever it may be. But yeah, I have faith. I think, or I hope she will make the right choice for herself as a person and herself as a player. So when the time comes, I look forward to seeing that. Oh no, because if City can't sign her on another contract,
so
it won't
there
be a
is the
record
risk.
transfer fee. No.
Yes, there is the risk that she will leave as a free agent at the end of the season.
She shouldn't.
I mean, that is the. I mean, look. At the end of the day, Melbourne City signed her to a 12-month extension.
You made it 18 months, guys. Come on.
I'm not anyone in any sort of footballing or club departments who has a say on that. So good news there. As far as Holly McNamara is concerned, that she does have plenty of suitors and plenty of options available. You mentioned Buttress as well. Obviously, 17 can't exactly move overseas yet because of FIFA's rules, which I guess leaves an interesting question and potential discussion point. Is that she's been, she's sort of burst onto the scene this season. Those who have watched her in NPL Victoria for a little bit kind of have known what she's about. I look at this and I think, the talk there with Holly Mack of league record transfer fees, surely Melbourne City have to try. I mean, maybe they have. I don't remember off the top of my head, but make sure that she's locked down onto a long-term contract so that they can get a transfer fee for Buttress. And if she continues on this trajectory, when the suitors inevitably come knocking,
they do, I believe, currently have her on a 2-year deal. So
yes. That makes that would make sense. Yes.
Hopefully she sticks around. I think she's really great for the league. I think she's a really, really, really good player, especially for someone as young as she is. I like the way that City seem to manage her minutes, because she is very young, and City do have a lot of young players. So I do like that they don't tend to play her, from what I'm remembering, a full 90 that often. She's often playing 45 minutes, 60 minutes. So I do like that as well, as much as I would love to see her on the pitch all the time, because I think she's just fantastic. I think that's really good as well. Yeah, that if she continues the way that she is currently playing, inshallah, said the Ovole, God willing, she does, the interest will be there. I fear the interest may already, or it should already be there. So
yep. So I did make a small error. So she has turned 18.
Oh.
And her contract extension is through until the end of the 2026-27 season. So she's locked in to City Blue for another 12 months beyond the end of this campaign. We'll stay in Melbourne now. Brisbane Roar doing the double over Melbourne Victory this season. Daisy Brown getting her first A-League women goal. The lone goal in the 1-0 victory for the Roar as they travelled to the home of the Matildas. Burke, Brisbane Roar, they've been a little bit hit, a little bit miss this season. After last week, Chloe Lincoln had an absolute standout performance, didn't she?
Yeah, that there was that one save that she made quite late in the game that really was just the moment of the match outside of the goal being scored that you just, again, like with Fon Song Ham's free kick goal, once Lincoln made that save, I knew it was over. Like, I knew that was it. I actually missed half of this match-ish because some of us have jobs that require working on weekends. Boo. But yeah, pretty much as soon as I turned on the stream, Brisbane scored the goal. So my bad if that was my psychic influence. I wish a constant gripe. I wish there was more than two cameras at these games. I wish there was a camera on the other side of the pitch. Because you can't. The goal has been credited to Daisy Brown, but you can't really tell because of the angles. And there was also another point where, was it in this game or was it in another game? There was another game where it looked like the ball had crossed the line, but again, from all the angles that we are provided, we cannot tell. We cannot tell. But yeah, that's just a random aside, which no one is surprised about because this is a constant issue here. Lovely. Yeah, I think this was a really evenly matched game. I also think Victory were probably a bit... Were they unlucky or were they just well defended against? Maybe it's both, to have not scored. But yeah, you could tell it was very, very tense between these two teams, especially the later the game went on, or the longer the game went on, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So that win sees Brisbane inside the top six as well, at the bottom of the top six. Because Melbourne City had the bye, they jumped to the top. Canberra United had the bye. Melbourne City, with their win, jumped to the top of the A-League women table. So Melbourne City on top, Canberra in second, Mariners in third, Victory in fourth, Perth in fifth, and Brisbane in sixth place, rounding out the top six and the finals spots. As well, we're basically at the halfway point of the season now. There's still a couple of mixed match games to be played, but we're basically at the halfway point of the season. So still plenty of time for moving and shaking given the compactness of the table. As we look ahead to this weekend, kicking off on Friday night, it is Melbourne City versus the Newcastle Jets at 4:50 p.m. This game is part of a doubleheader. At Amy Park at 7 p.m. at Wanderers Football Park. The Western Sydney Wanderers will host the Brisbane Roar. Then we move to Saturday, which will see Adelaide United host Melbourne Victory. That game kicking off at 4:50 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, 4:20 p.m. local time. That game part of a double header. Which will also see the Pride Cup taking place. More on that in a moment. Canberra United host the Wellington Phoenix at McKellar Park, a game which I've been told is part of the tour of duty for the Yellow Fever. So there will be a larger than usual Wellington Phoenix presence at that game at McKellar Park. 7:30 p.m. kickoff 7:30 p.m. kickoff in New Zealand, 5:30 p.m. local time. Yes, it should be more than just a little corner of yellow. I think it might be a big corner of yellow down at McKellar Park. And then the lone game on Sunday, 5 p.m. in Gosford, we'll see the Central Coast Mariners host the Perth Glory, Sydney FC with the bye, and of course the Sydney versus Newcastle game will have already taken place by the time you listen to this. A lot of interesting games this week. What one catches your eye the most?
Ooh. The Pride Cup game will be good, obviously. I think Canberra Wellington could be really exciting. Um, L's in the chat for the kickoff time for City versus Jets. I will be at that game. I've been waiting my whole life for a game in Melbourne on a Saturday where I don't already have plans, and I finally have that game. Thank God. Thank God. So if you're there, you may see me. Say hi. Don't. Up to you. But yes, I am looking forward to that fixture mainly because I'm going to be there. Thank God. A little bit worried for Western Sydney, but they could surprise us. You just don't know.
Yes, you never know indeed. Look, the game I am most looking forward to this weekend. Honestly, I'm looking forward to Canberra United and Wellington. I think that this should be a game that if Canberra are serious, they'll come out and make a statement against Wellington. And for Wellington, they need to start getting 3 points here and there. They are only 1 point outside of the top 6, admittedly. But as we said, we're kind of in and around maybe just over the halfway point of the season. And so, opportunities become few and far between, and time does start to run out. So if you can start to get some points in the bank now, particularly against the side which is sitting in second place, could help stake a claim for finals contendership. I did say we were going to talk about the Pride Cup in just a moment, and we'll do that now. So Melbourne Victory and Adelaide United on Monday announced the return of the Pride Cup, which is the annual fixture that the two sides play against each other, and it's usually the highlight of a broader Pride celebration across the A-Leagues. I have reached out to the APL for comment on whether there will be a broader Pride celebration this year, a league-wide Pride celebration this year. As of the time of recording, I have yet to receive it. If I do receive any sort of update, I will leave a little note in the description before we hit publish on this. But yeah, so that game will be taking place in Adelaide this year, which was the site of the inaugural Pride Cup game, or the inaugural Pride game, I should say, where it saw Adelaide and Melbourne Victory play against each other in the women's, and Adelaide and Central Coast Mariners in the men's. The women's game perhaps being most remembered for the fact that Maya Markovsky ended up in goals in that game. I was in attendance for that one. So it was certainly a sight to see. You can head over to the websites of the respective clubs to read the particular releases they put out. I'm not going to go into too much detail about a ton of it, but the point I do want to make is I didn't like the timing of this announcement. I don't know. You're not giving fans the best chance to travel, announcing it 5 days out. Fans who are on the fence, considering not going because it is part of a doubleheader with a men's game. We both know that there's certain sections of the Melbourne Victory fan base that are only fans of the women's team and generally don't stick around for men's games, maybe wouldn't travel necessarily, but might have travelled if they'd have known it was a Pride game. So yeah, I thought the timing of it was a little bit odd. And then there's been other stuff that's come out in the 24 hours afterwards. I mean, do we want to get into it, Burke? Do we want to let it go through to the keeper and let people I don't know at this point. I genuinely don't know what to do at this point.
Yeah, it's all just very, very disappointing. Um, yeah, the point that you make about the people wanting to travel and now maybe not having enough time, rough, ridiculous, shouldn't happen. The other thing that really annoys me, this is across the board, with like all social media these days, is not limiting the comments
Yes.
when you
Yeah.
post about these things. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like,
Yep.
these events are meant to be, promoting education and, positivity around this. And when you leave the comments open, you don't get either of those things. You really, really don't. So if clubs could do that, could limit their comments, that would be
Yeah.
really nice. Obviously, they shouldn't have to, but
They shouldn't, but we know
this
the
is the
world we
world that
live
we live
in,
in.
unfortunately.
So,
Obviously, the A leagues and clubs in the past have used Go Bubble technology in conjunction with Pride Cup. Melbourne Victory has also announced that they're working with Arito Labs to enable the club to foster safe online environments by taking the opportunity to implement and pilot world-first ethical moderation technology. The pilot aims to provide a safe, supportive online environment for teams and athletes, reducing harassment and abuse while promoting positive fan engagement and enabling teams to promote their matches and content with comments, but without the need for increasing social media moderation resources. And I think the first 24 hours after those announcements have told us that, yeah, it is a pilot program, and that more and more work needs to be done with said program. Melbourne Victory are doing a number of events in and around the Pride Cup, in addition to continuing their ongoing education for players. Again, you can read all of that in the club's release, and I'll put a link to that in the episode description as well, so you can go check it out at your own pace. I mean, yeah, it's tough at the moment, and kind of what I was alluding to. If you want to head over to Josh Cavallo's Instagram, that'll tell you what I was alluding to. I don't actually want to get into it now that I think about it. The last piece of business that we have to talk about today, or that we had penciled in for our run sheet today, is a report from The Guardian that Qatar is in talks with FIFA to host the first Women's Club World Cup in January of 2028. So FIFA announced that the tournament will be taking place from the 5th to the 30th of January, but at the time of that announcement, there was no location confirmed for it, or whether there would be a bidding process or not. And Qatar have expressed interest in it. Now, unfortunately, the problem is twofold. There's the issues of Qatar in general, which, we don't need to sort of, I guess, repeat everything that was said about the 2022 Men's World Cup, the sports washing, the homophobia, all of that sort of stuff, which is even more prevalent in women's football, I guess I would say. But the problem, the bigger problem here, is that the country has little to no history of women's football. A women's national team was formed in 2009 when Qatar was preparing to bid for the 2022 World Cup. But after an initial burst of fixtures, they have not played an official match for 12 years and do not have a FIFA ranking. And I'll let you put two and two together as to why they had a women's team, which quietly disbanded as soon as they got the World Cup. Now, look, it's... look, we know FIFA doesn't have any issues with staging fixtures in Qatar or Saudi Arabia, I mean, they basically, we're not going to go into that, right? But having your first tournament in a nation where we know women's football is full of full of players, staff, who are members of the LGBTQIA community, and that is still punishable by death in Qatar. It's not enforced, but it is still legally punishable by death. This would be pathetic from FIFA, which unfortunately means it'll probably happen because FIFA seem to do the most abhorrent thing possible at all times.
Yeah, it's like they're given the option where it's like decent, okay option, or the worst possible choice you could ever make in the history of your life, and every single time they're going to make the worst possible choice they could ever make in the history of their lives. Yeah, zero out of 10. Wonder how much money Qatar are gonna offer them. But it also doesn't, this whole concept isn't, or at least doesn't feel like it's really viable to me financially, because it doesn't really look like the current, what's the one that's about to happen in London? Is it the Club World Cup as well?
Yeah,
The Champions
it's sort of like
something?
so it's kind of like basically so we had the men's Club World Cup, the inaugural edition of that kick off in sort of like in 2025 in the United States, which was 32 team tournament. But the men's side of the draw in between those tournaments to basically take the champions from each champions league within the confederations, and the
Yes.
stage is sort of like a knockout. So Wuhan have already played Auckland, and they've already played they already played their other fixture and got knocked out, which is why Wuhan are not in this little sort of 14
Yeah. Apparently
little thing that's going
that's
on in London.
not selling well either. So I don't know where the interest is for this if it's not even in London. I don't know where it's going to be.
I mean,
Yeah.
if it's in Qatar, fans are not going to travel. We know this. The stadiums will be maybe empty. Maybe people will be forced to go to the stadiums to make it look. But I mean, like it's the optics are not great.
No.
It's not going to look good. It will be a 16-team tournament, which will see 5 teams from Europe, 2 each from Asia, Africa, South America, and North America. And then a club from each of those confederations and one from Oceania will play in a qualifying tournament to determine the final 3 entrants.
What's the point?
But
What's the
I
point
mean,
of this? Also, isn't it
look,
meant to run in January?
it is going to run in January,
No.
which will
Immediately
impact
no.
basically every team's club season. So it's.
No.
I
Why
mean,
are we doing this?
we know the conditions aren't the greatest for women's players as it stands at the moment. We know fixture congestion is a real issue. We know there is an increase in ACL injuries in part because of fixture congestion. We know players are exhausted. We know players are leaving the game because they're exhausted. Yeah, I don't like this at all.
0 out of 10.
Least of all, the fact that it is in Qatar, or it's at least the Guardian are reporting that Qatar are in talks with FIFA to host said tournament. We'll end on a little bit of a positive note here. So, 2 Matildas players have found new clubs after leaving Kristianstad at the end of last season. Amy Sayer and Remy Simpson have both found new clubs. Both of them are staying in Sweden. Remy Simpson has signed for Rosengard, while Amy Sayer has signed for Malmo, where she will join fellow Matilda Courtney Nevin. They get to stay in a league they love. Their clubs obviously, wouldn't have signed them if, them playing at the Asian Cup was going to be an issue. Burke, we know the seasons because of temperatures in that part of the world run a little bit differently, and so there should be minimal game time for their new clubs as well. And for Amy Sayer in particular, Malmo are part of the qualification stage for the UEFA Women's Champions League as well. So, potentially some continental football on the way for Sayer in addition to the Asian Cup.
Yeah, really good stuff. I'm really glad both of them have now found clubs. I know Sayers' signing was announced a little while ago, but Simpson was just announced today at time of recording. Hooray, they didn't get us by immediately announcing this.
This wasn't a 10-21 signing.
Thank God. Thank God. But no, I'm very glad to hear that both of them are going to be sticking around in Sweden, because they both seem to be playing good football there. So, yeah, good stuff.
Yep, it is good stuff indeed. That will do for this episode of the Dubcast. As I said off the top, a lot of heavy stuff to touch on in this episode, unfortunately. Look, Burke and I are hoping to be back later this week with some fun stuff to discuss, but we're not 100% sure yet. But we will be back next week, as always, to record an episode. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button, the little notification bell, so you can get notified when we drop new content, now would be an incredibly good time to do so. Particularly if you've made it this far into the episode, you obviously, hopefully you've liked what you've listened to over the last 50 minutes or so. So you can get notified of when we drop new if we drop content outside of our regular schedules. But thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Dubcast. For Burke, my name is Poletti. Plenty of dub football this week for you to sink your teeth into, and hopefully you enjoy every minute of it, and we'll talk to you next time.